Have you ever considered cursing out your kid's pediatrician? I hope that you don't have a relationship with your kid's pediatrician that's like that, but Megyn Kelly has this video. Megyn Kelly, you know, I think she used to be on Fox. She has her own show now, I believe on Sirius XM, like Sirius Radio, and she posts to her YouTube channel, of course. So Megyn Kelly, she's got 1.54 million subscribers. Wow. Would not have expected her to be quite that prolific, but she posted a video. Well, she posted a segment to this YouTube channel. The video is called "Radical Gender Ideology Leads Scientists to Try to Rename Body Parts" with Avita Duffy and Will Witt. So before we go too much further, I just want to say, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell and maybe clicking all notifications to get notifications for the channel. Also consider checking out my brand new merch store, which just launched. There's going to be a link down in the description. And you can also check out my Patreon, where there are some promo deals for patrons if you want to maybe get a deal on some of your merchandise. So thank you very much for watching the content. Hope you continue to enjoy. So without further ado, I figured we'd just do a little react segment and see what this is about.
The pediatrician said at our last wellness visit when the kids were, I guess, 13 and 11, hey, at their next visit, at the next annual visit, there's going to be a moment where we say, Mom, step out of the room. And we're going to need just a couple minutes alone with your child to go over some things. And these things are supposedly like, are you having sex and you don't want your mom to know? And here's how to...
I just want to be clear. It's not just, are you having sex and you don't want your mom to know? It's like, are you being sexually exploited and you don't want your parents to know that you're telling authority figures about that? Like, that's the other important part of that. Like, when your pediatrician takes your kid and they're like, hey, we're going to talk to him alone for a second, the reason is to make sure that they're not being sexually abused in some way is the main reason. And like, yeah, children deserve private moments to bring up issues with their doctor that they might be uncomfortable talking to their parents about. They deserve to have the autonomy. Yeah, or if they're being physically abused, obviously. It's not just about sexual abuse. Could be a neglect thing. Like, yeah, is there anything that a mandatory reporter ought to know? You know, a trusted adult that the kid is willing to talk to. Like, there's a number of reasons why, besides just, are you having sex and you don't want your mom to know about it, that it's important to have this moment. So
stay safe. And I've talked to a few people who said, don't let that happen. Like, do not let that happen because you don't know what you're getting. Because virtually all of these pediatricians have been captured by the American Academy of Pediatrics.
The American Academy of Pediatrics. She's describing the American Academy of Pediatrics as a woke organization, basically. That's her angle here.
And they just held a conference. It's actually ongoing, right? It ended yesterday, October 20th through 24th.
Bro, her shoulders are so bony. I don't look like that, do I? I hope not. What is with... Is she okay? Is that just like part of the lifestyle? Like, she's so skinny. Anyway, she just looks unhealthy. I'm just concerned because I'm like, why are your bones in sharp relief like that right now?
And at this conference, you guys, which was in DC, they presented slides, to your point, Will, of the gender obsession, slides of a gender presentation by this woman, Dr. Ilana Scherer, Scherer.
Notice how she makes a point to spell this person's name for her audience.
And Dr. Scherer shared too much. I object to everything she shared as completely made up.
I mean, she tried to be funny. I'll give her that. I don't remember her being that skinny before. Yeah, I can't remember specifically, but it stands out to me now.
And offensive. One of the slides she presented on discussing gender and sexuality in the primary care office. Okay, this is in the primary care office. So when the person's coming for the wellness visit. Gender diverse youth. What do you call your parts?
Okay, yeah, this is gold. This is absolute gold, okay? So this is like, we suggest, okay, let me just context. The purpose of this is if you have a trans person who's coming into your office, like a gender diverse youth, you want them to have an experience where they can be comfortable with the visit, you know? Like, if you have to talk about your intimate body parts, maybe we can just you can have a form that you fill out and you check the boxes of what terminology are you comfortable with so that at no point during the visit do you feel uncomfortable. Like, you should feel comfortable at the doctor's office. You should feel like you're not going to be made to feel self-conscious about your body or anything. So that's what the purpose of this is. I guess I'll let her read them to you.
Renaming the feminine parts. Look at this. The new words for feminine body parts include your innie, that's supposed to be a vagina, obviously.
Yeah, true.
Front hole.
True.
Dick or dicklet, forgive me, for a clitoris. Dicklet. Fuck you, Dr. Scherer.
I like watched this video earlier and I got to that point and I was like, Lamau, okay, we have to watch this on stream. Like, like, fuck you, Dr. Scherer. Like, oh my God, that's too funny. But yeah, she's like, I don't even know what that is. Does she say that? Yeah.
T-penises, don't even know what that is.
Yeah, T-penis, don't even know what that is. Yeah, like, you're so educated about trans issues. Like, you definitely should be speaking on what appropriate terminology for our bodies is. Trans masculine individuals who have a vulva and who are not comfortable with it, and so they want to use indirect language to talk about their body parts, okay? All right, okay. But she's like, fuck you, Dr. Scherer. Like, it just cracks me up.
Chesticles for your breasts. I am so offended by this nonsense. Over on the masculine parts,
I am so offended by this nonsense. Like, it has nothing to do with you. It's not your body. We call them chesticles because we want to make the play on testicles. Like, it's we're saying I'm a man and I have titties and I'm gonna call them something funny and stupid. Okay. Oh man. Okay. And I haven't watched this past that point. So from here on out, we're doing a raw react. We're doing it raw.
We're renaming those to your outie, your junk, strapless, or your bits. This is
interesting. I don't know that I would have. Your outie, your junk, your strapless. Well, you know what? This isn't even prescriptive. I think this is a slide from a survey result, like gender diverse youth. What do you call your parts? Like, because I imagine that a doctor would not have come up with strapless because that's referring to like the idea that it's your strap on, but you don't need a strap. You know, I think they just keep lists of weird terms as a point of proving that weird terms can be used by patients. Like, I wonder if they surveyed some kids, some gender diverse youth, and they were like, what do you call your parts? And of course, they're teenagers. So some of them are going to answer seriously and some of them are going to joke. Like, how young are these people? I am not sure. Junk is hardly unheard of when cis people refer to their bits as well. Yeah, I mean, junk and bits, it does seem like, yeah, those are the kind of ways that I would assume that trans girls are referring to their body parts. I tell people that my strap-on is attached. Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. There's other people who make this same kind of jokes. Oh, God. Oh, Megyn.
This is disgusting. And here's the addendum. I know, I share your face, Evita.
I missed this.
Then they say how to ask teens about sex. They want your pediatrician to look at your kid and say, how would you describe your sexuality? Allow them to self-label or no label. Allow flexibility. Don't assume that LGBTQ identified youth are having sex or that they are only having sex with certain genders, with an exclamation point.
I mean, again, so this is like one of those times when Republicans just say totally normal leftist things in a scary voice and want you to act like it's upsetting somehow. But just the idea of like, yeah, ask the youth to describe their sexuality and their sexual behavior. Like, don't make assumptions. Like, let them label themselves and tell you, like, what does she think what does she think that the appropriate thing to do is? Like, you tell a child you are straight, and then like based on their sexual behavior or something. Like, I don't know. Like, what is the opposite? Is this even leftist? This seems like standard medical care, right? Assuming the partner's genders is a good way to give bad advice. Yeah, you know, you can't make assumptions. If someone identifies as a lesbian, you might be like, okay, you have sex with women, but you might find out that she's dating a trans woman and so that means that she might be having like a sexual relationship that she might need to protect herself against pregnancy in. You know what I mean? Like, it's worth asking, like, what kind of relationships people are in. Yeah, the exclamation point makes it so frightening. It's terrifying.
Tell me a little about how you have explored sex and intimacy, and then all sorts of admonitions about how we're supposed to be staying open-minded to third genders and so on. This woman, you won't be surprised to hear, was educated at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. Right? They've been all over the news these past 2 weeks. Pro-Hamas.
Pennsylvania School of Medicine. Okay, that's funny for some specific reason that she gets to know the inside joke.
Owners pulling their funds. This is insane. This is absolute madness, Evita.
Yeah.
No, it is complete madness. I remember when I was younger, probably elementary school, middle school, and the pediatrician would ask to take me out of the room or to ask my mom to leave the room so that they could talk to me alone. And of course, it was probably going to be about safe sex, like you mentioned, Megyn, but my mom always said no. And now she especially says no because I have 8 younger siblings.
I really think that is that not like a sign to the doctor that there might be a problem? Like if a parent refuses to allow your child to be spoken to for a moment about potential abuse, is that not like a red flag to the doctor? I would consider, if I was a doctor, I would be like, oh, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call CPS then and have them do a report since you don't trust me to talk to your child. On some level, I do understand the hesitance of like, oh my God, like, I don't know that I know you that well, pediatrician guy who's asking to speak to my doctor, speaking to my child one-on-one. Like, I kind of understand that initially because, yeah, there is such a thing as medical abuse, like people abusing their positions of authority medically. But I think that overwhelmingly, if the parents don't allow one-on-one time, it is a red flag, not necessarily reportable, but it will be noted in the chart. Yeah, and I mean, it's a red flag, so it increases their scrutiny on you overall. It's going to change the way that they approach you from that point. FBI on standby, true.
Many of them are still in elementary school, middle school, high school age. And she says, absolutely not. Why do we want adults talking to our kids about things that are completely inappropriate that we do not, as parents, would not want them to be discussing or thinking about? Because when you introduce these ideas to young kids,
I just still think it's crazy how adults think that they have the right to like prevent their children from knowing facts about the world. It's like, okay, I understand wanting to protect your children from like the realities of war. And like maybe you would want to take away Twitter from your kid this week. If your 15-year-old is on Twitter and there's a bunch of like unalived Palestinians on the TL, you might want to like limit that access. You know what I mean? But this concept that you can prevent kids from knowing that gay and trans people exist and like that parents have a right to like keep their kids ignorant, I just am never going to understand it. I'm never going to understand or respect that position because I don't respect your right to keep your children ignorant. There's a reason why even with homeschool, we still have like check-ins. Like there's still an understanding that you have to get a degree at the end of that. Like you have to be at a level where like you can function in society, right? Like you don't have the right to keep your kids 100% ignorant. They will at some point have to take their GED. Like if it's discovered that you are like academically neglecting your kids, that is abuse. Remember when she was doing that liberal media apology tour? She went on Ellen and now this. What a loser. Oh man. Yeah, Megyn tried to rehabilitate her image and then she realized that like all of the other bimbo white women from the Fox network, she had no choice but to, I think she did try to kind of go, well, you know, I'm more of a centrist, moderate lady and like maybe I'm trying to get some progressives to watch my show now. And it's just now she's just as bad as any YouTuber, basically. As a parent, I dislike the whole idea of parents' rights. Parents don't have rights, kids have rights, and parents are trusted to safeguard those rights. Yeah, like I don't own, if you're like the legal guardian of someone, whether you are their legal guardian because you were appointed such or because they were born to your custody, like you are their protector, you have the right to speak on their behalf, like, but you don't own them. You are their guardian. You are to protect them. You are to teach them. Like, you are to keep them safe. What rights do you have in that situation? You have an obligation. I don't think that's the same thing as having the rights. Like, you have an obligation to protect the child's rights, if anything. But what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a new adoptive parent. I don't know anything, apparently.
Suddenly they start to actually get confused. What you're doing is not being, caring or empathetic.
They learned some words and that was confusing.
These kids, you're actually confusing them in their sexuality. You're muddling the waters. You're making things difficult for them. I also think that this is so concerning that it's coming from real medical doctors and medical association, from science.
I'm concerned instead of trusting that they know better than me. Wow. And like, that's not, I don't want to do the whole appeal to authority thing, but it's like they check and they do studies and they test. Wow. As opposed to she's not even alluding to an anecdote. She doesn't even have like, my younger sibling got confused by this. She's just saying, yeah, who even is this child? She's got to be like 19, bro. She's like maybe 18 or 19. She is a baby, which is not to say that she is not a credible human person, because like I think that children can be credible human persons, but like why, who is she? And like she doesn't even have any specific things to point to. She's just saying it confuses people. She's not saying I was a victim of gender ideology. She's not saying my younger sibling thought that he was gay because a doctor told him he might be gay. Like nothing. You got nothing here. This is so weak.
Scientists even, this is the most anti-scientific ideology that has ever emerged out of cultural Marxism. Radical gender ideology is culturally Marxist at its heart. It is anti-science, and it is destroying.
You can't even say like cultural Marxism. Okay. Like, let's go back to Der Stürmer and read about cultural Bolshevism. Fashion. Oh my God.
The bodies of young boys and girls for the rest of their lives. It's so dangerous, and I am like you, Megyn. I'm extremely offended and angry that young parents unknowingly are having their children subjected to it by malicious doctors, pediatricians, likewise.
Sure, yeah, they're malicious.
It's bad enough, Will, that you have to worry about teachers doing this stuff to them while they're sitting there trying to learn history, or they're supposed to be learning English. Now you're taking on the mandated
Who are these goofballs? I'll take things that really happened for $400, Alex.
Pediatrician visit, which we all have to do if we want to get them into school the next year. And they're telling you to get out so they can talk about dicklets and chesticles. I mean, it's insane.
That sounds like a self-report from the teenagers of what it's like. We surveyed teenagers who were gender diverse and asked, guy in the middle hasn't talked yet. I know it's Men's Day. We got to give him his chance.
I know. I mean, I'm laughing when you're saying chesticles, because obviously this is so ridiculous. And anyone who uses something like this should be laughed out of any sort of academic institution. But the fact that we are even having discussions about this shows how unserious science has become in this country, how unserious our political discussions have become.
Like science and political discussions. This dude is saying, like, look at how unserious science and political discussions have become when we're talking about how do teenagers talk about their own body parts? How do trans teenagers, who are, I think, a notoriously silly group of people, how trans teenagers talk about their bodies? Like how, like what is unscientific about why does it need to be scientific? It doesn't need to be scientific, of course. They're just going to draw non sequiturs.
Come in this country. What should be happening right now is not us calling out the left for their hypocrisy and these kind of things, because that never works. It never shows that, it never actually does anything to change what it is. We need to have strong Republican and leadership around this country, not just Republican.
Oh, interesting. This is the kind of argument that I've started to make recently, is that it doesn't, like, that calling out the hypocrisy of the right wing doesn't actually change their beliefs. Like, the point of being in power is that you can be hypocritical. You can tell someone you have to follow these rules, but I don't have to follow these rules. Like, that's part of the point of the power.
The people with a backbone come and say these types of things are not going to be allowed to happen anymore. Scientific terms exist for a reason, so you can discern and ascertain what the actual truth about someone's medical condition is, or the type of gender or sex this person is. This is why these terms exist.
Like, all of those terms were, like, you understood what was being referred to. Clearly, Kelly was like, Megyn was like, yeah, so innie is clearly referring to a vagina. I don't know what T-penis refers to, because I don't know shit about trans people. Like, oh man.
Exists to muddy all these waters and say chesticles and dicklets. I mean, you're undermining what
I also want to just bring up that, like, the terms that they keep making fun of are, again, like, terms for transmasculine bodies. So, like, they're not making fun of strapless, you know, they're making fun of the terms for transmasc bodies. Just wanted to highlight that.
Hundreds of years of scientific research has done for human anatomy and humans in general.
Imagine getting in a tizzy over and trying to be like, ooh, we need to be scientific. Like, do you think that a doctor should, like, insist, like, okay, if a kid's like 10 years old and they're like, yeah, so something is wrong with my vagina, and then there's like an inspection and it turns out that it is a problem on their vulva instead of their actual, like, the vagina part, which is the muscles and the inside part. Do you think that the doctor should be like, well, so this is your vulva, not your vagina. We need to be scientifically accurate in this medical setting. Like, that's not good patient care. That's not good bedside manner. A lot of right-wing, that's a really good point. a lot of right-wing hypocrisy isn't actually hypocritical, but rather it's just their values. Like having different standards for men and women is only hypocritical if you believe in equality, but they don't. It's not hypocrisy, it's just believing in inequality as a fundamental value. That's a good point. So they're not being hypocritical when they support cis kids with precocious puberty having access to puberty blockers, but trans kids not having access to puberty blockers. Like, it's not hypocritical. It's in line with their beliefs that being cisgender and getting puberty on a certain timeline is normal and like understood and wanted. Even better, like, oh yeah, these Republicans are passing all these laws to prevent you from quote unquote doing a transition on a kid, but all of them have exceptions for surgically normalizing intersex kids. That's so hypocritical. But it's not hypocritical. It's in line with the belief structure that every single person needs to be male or female and needs to stick with that and needs to be normalized and needs to not deviate from that. Like, they don't mind surgically correcting intersex kids because that leads to the desirable outcome of no more freaks in society. Yeah, sorry, that was a pain you were feeling in your labia majora, not labia minora, so now I'm not gonna help you. Like, you need to be more scientific in this setting. Meanwhile, a cis dude is gonna say his jewels hurt and no one bats an eye. Yeah. Oh, it got me right in the jewels. I got this pain in my family jewels, doc. Yeah, do we think that every single person speaks scientifically about their body? Someone might be like, I have a pain in my boob. Excuse me, ma'am, that's your breast? Excuse me. I checked Megyn Kelly's channel and it's all anti-trans stuff. What a grifter. Goodness. I had a right-winger relative recently ask me, you don't respect my values and beliefs, do you? I answered, no, I really don't. Just because you try to push them does not mean that I respect them in the slightest bit. Yeah, I don't know why people assume that their opinion is deserving of respect. Like, I think that we have engendered this idea in American culture, like, your opinion can't be wrong because it's your opinion. Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion or what have you, which I don't believe that people are not entitled to an opinion. Okay, I just want to, like, you're obviously entitled to make up your own mind about something, but you can be wrong. Like, an opinion can be wrong. You misunderstand. My opinion can't be wrong because I'm a cis white straight man. True, and a doctor, so can't be wrong. All opinions are equal, and everything you believe or know is just an opinion. I think it's a pre-internet thing, hence the boomers who say it. Before internet, they could not just look it up as easy, so everyone was, quote, entitled to an opinion/theory. Right, but yeah, the way that functions in the current day, it's like they don't feel the need to double check, you know, that there's like no accountability to facts because folks can just say, oh, well, I have my alternative facts. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they have their facts and we have our facts, which is actually something that you hear being said sometimes. The opposition has their facts and we are presenting our facts. Like, there aren't two different sets of facts. There's facts and there's lies and there's spin. You can't have conflicting information that is all true. Being an academic makes me less qualified to be right because I'm infected with postmodern neocultural Marxism. True. Cultural Marxism. Man, she just busted that one out. She was ready for that. Boy, howdy. Oh, so I guess Avida, the woman in that video, was a Federalist contributor, and Will Witt is the author of Do Not Comply. Cultural Marxism is a Nazi conspiracy theory. It's amazing how people don't know that. Right. Merry holidays and Happy New Year to my patrons and potential future patrons. Today, I would love to thank Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Wellington Marcus, Michelle Winter, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Past Null Infinity, Jamie Jam, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Kevin Young, Athiet, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, and Mr. Atheist.